Right now, as you sit inside your home, your walls are silently bleeding heat straight through to the outside air. Not leaking slowly, bleeding. The United States Department of Energy published research confirming that the average American home loses between 25 and 30% of its heating energy directly through air gaps, cracks, and unsealed penetrations in the building envelope. That is not a design flaw. That is nearly 1/3 of every heating dollar you spend vanishing through invisible holes in walls you trusted to protect you. There's a $2 fix that was widely documented and taught in home economics courses as far back as 1948 that stops this thermal bleeding without ripping open your walls and without calling a single contractor. The insulation industry generates over $18 billion annually in the United States alone. A solution that any homeowner can apply in one afternoon for the cost of a sandwich cannot be allowed to circulate freely. So they buried it beneath technical jargon, branded spray foam systems, and contractor licensing requirements designed to convince you that your own walls are beyond your reach. They did not bury it because it doesn't work. They buried it because it works too well for an industry that bills by the square foot. This is the story of the thermal sealing method that insulation companies prayed would stay forgotten. Welcome to Camping Decoded. If this kind of breakdown matters to you, subscribe and ring that bell. Because Camping Decoded is where we dismantle the gatekeeping systems that were built to keep simple, practical knowledge out of the hands of the people who actually need it. Let me take you back to the origin of this problem. Between 1945 and 1960, over 20 million homes were constructed across the United States during the largest housing boom in American history. Soldiers returned from World War II needing affordable housing, and developers raced to meet demand. Entire suburban neighborhoods were framed, sheathed, and finished in a matter of weeks. Speed and cost control were everything. The priority was getting families under a roof, not building airtight, energy-efficient structures. Most of these homes were constructed with minimal wall insulation. Many had nothing more than a thin layer of rock wool or wood fiber batting stuffed loosely between studs with enormous gaps left around plumbing pipes, electrical boxes, window frames, and door jambs. Builders at the time understood that these gaps existed. They simply had no financial incentive to address them when housing demand was so intense and profit margins were already tight. But the families who moved into these drafty homes quickly figured something out on their own. They discovered that basic caulking compound and simple weather stripping materials available at any hardware store could seal the worst air leaks around windows, doors, and outlets. By 1948, agricultural extension services and home economics bulletins published by land-grant universities were actively teaching homeowners how to identify and seal these thermal leaks using materials that cost pennies per foot. A single tube of caulk cost less than a loaf of bread. The energy savings were immediate and measurable. Here's what the actual science shows. Heat escapes your home through 3 primary mechanisms. Conduction is heat traveling directly through solid materials like wood studs, drywall, and glass. Radiation is infrared energy radiating from warm surfaces toward cooler ones. Convection is heat carried away by moving air currents flowing through gaps, cracks, and unsealed penetrations. Of these 3, convection through air leaks is the single largest contributor to energy loss in most homes. The Department of Energy estimates that air infiltration accounts for up to 40% of heating and cooling costs in the average American residence. This is not heat slowly diffusing through insulation. This is warm air literally pouring out of your house through cracks you cannot see, and cold outside air rushing in to replace it. Your walls might contain fiberglass batt insulation rated at R13 or even R19. But if there's a 1/4-inch gap around every electrical outlet box, a crack running along every baseboard seam, and an unsealed hole where every pipe penetrates the wall, that insulation is operating at a fraction of its rated thermal resistance. It is like wearing an expensive winter coat with the zipper left completely open. Here is where the numbers become uncomfortable for the insulation industry. The residential insulation market in the United States is valued at over $18 billion per year. That includes fiberglass batts, blown cellulose spray, foam rigid, foam boards, and the labor to install them. The average cost to professionally insulate an existing home ranges from $3,000 to $12,000, depending on square footage and method. Spray foam insulation, marketed as the premium solution, costs between $1.50 and $4 per square foot installed. For a typical 1,500 square foot home, that translates to a bill between $7,000 and $15,000. Insulation contractors and material manufacturers have built this industry on a single foundational premise. Homeowners must believe that solving energy loss requires professional assessment, specialized materials, and licensed installation. When the Department of Energy own published guidelines state clearly that sealing air leaks with basic caulk and weather stripping can reduce heating costs by 15 to 20% before installing a single inch of new insulation, that foundational premise starts to crumble. Now, before I walk you through the exact process, let me tell you what Camping Decoded has been assembling behind the scenes. This video is just one layer of a much larger knowledge base. I have been compiling practical methods across home energy efficiency, automotive repair, wilderness survival, and emergency preparedness. Thermal sealing techniques that contractors never mention during the sales pitch. Battery restoration methods that parts stores will not put on a poster. Water purification systems that cost almost nothing and perform in real field conditions. Fire starting techniques that work in freezing rain when commercial products fail. All of it is linked in the description below. But stay right here because what comes next is the step-by-step method. And this is the part that threatens billions in contractor revenue every single winter. Here's exactly how to seal the thermal leaks in your home for under $5 in materials. Start with a simple smoke test that costs you nothing. Wait for a cold, windy day. Light a stick of incense or a candle and slowly move it along the edges of every window frame, door frame, electrical outlet, cover baseboard, seam, and anywhere a pipe or wire penetrates through a wall or ceiling. Watch the smoke carefully. All right. Wherever the smoke stream bends, flutters, or gets sucked toward the wall, you have found an active air leak. These are the invisible thermal wounds in your building envelope, and most homes built before 1990 have dozens of them. Mark each leak location with a small piece of tape so you can return to it during sealing. Now grab your materials. You need 1 tube of paintable acrylic latex caulk, which costs about $2 at any hardware store. You need a pack of foam gasket inserts for electrical outlets, which cost about $2 for a pack of 12. You need 1 roll of adhesive-backed foam weather stripping for door frames, which costs about $3. Total investment is under $10 and will cover the highest impact leaks in most average-sized homes. Start with the electrical outlets and light switches on exterior walls. Turn off power to the outlet at your breaker panel for safety. Remove the cover plate. You will immediately see a gap between the electrical box and the drywall. This gap connects directly to the stud cavity inside your wall, which is essentially an open channel for cold outside air. Insert a pre-cut foam gasket over the outlet or switch, then replace the cover plate. The foam compresses and seals the air path. Repeat this on every outlet and switch on exterior walls. This single step typically takes under 30 minutes and eliminates one of the largest air leak sources in the entire home. Next, move to your window frames. Apply a continuous bead of caulk along the seam where the interior window trim meets the wall. Do the same where the trim meets the window frame itself. 1 tube of caulk covers approximately 50 linear feet, which is enough for most windows in a typical room. Smooth the caulk bead with a wet finger or a caulk tool for a clean finish. This seals the convective air path that allows warm indoor air to escape around the window perimeter. For door frames, apply foam weather stripping along the doorstop where the door makes contact when closed. Install a door sweep along the bottom edge of exterior doors to seal the gap between the door and the threshold. A basic door sweep costs $2 and installs with 4 screws in less than 10 minutes. For baseboards, run a thin bead of caulk along the top edge where the baseboard meets the wall and along the bottom edge where it meets the floor. This seam runs continuously along every exterior wall and represents one of the longest uninterrupted air leak paths in your entire house. The total time investment for a focused air sealing project on a 3-bedroom home is typically 2 to 3 hours. The material cost is under $10. The Department of Energy estimates that comprehensive air sealing reduces heating and cooling costs by 15 to 20%. For a household spending $2,000 annually on energy, that represents $300 to $400 in savings every single year. Your $10 investment pays for itself within 2 weeks of cold weather. I want to be completely honest about the limitations, because Camping Decoded does not hide inconvenient truths. Air sealing is not a substitute for insulation. If your walls contain zero insulation, sealing air leaks will help significantly, but adding insulation material will still provide additional benefit. If you have combustion appliances like a gas furnace, gas water heater, or wood stove, you must ensure adequate ventilation for safe combustion air. Oversealing a home with gas appliances without providing proper air supply can create dangerous carbon monoxide conditions. If you use any fuel-burning appliance, consult a qualified HVAC technician before aggressive air sealing. Now, this is not optional. Additionally, if your home has major structural damage, like cracked foundations, rotted framing, or broken windows, those issues need professional repair first. For the vast majority of homes, however, especially the 20 million built during the post-war construction boom with known thermal gaps, this simple caulk and foam method delivers immediate measurable results. You will feel the first cold night after application. Rooms stay warmer longer. Furnaces cycle less frequently. Drafts disappear. Outside noise diminishes. These are not subtle improvements. These are changes you notice within hours. Think about what just happened here. Millions of homes were built with known air leaks because builders prioritized speed over efficiency. The insulation industry built an $18 billion market on the premise that fixing heat loss requires thousands of dollars in professional services. Meanwhile, the most effective first step has been sitting on hardware store shelves since 1948 for less than the cost of lunch. The Department of Energy confirms it. Building scientists measure it. Every insulation contractor who quotes you $7,000 for spray foam without first asking if your outlets are sealed knows it. If Camping Decoded just opened your eyes to what your walls have been doing, subscribe now and share this with every homeowner still bleeding money through invisible cracks. Every share pushes this knowledge past the industry barriers designed to keep it locked away. The next Camping Decoded breakdown goes even deeper, and what is waiting will make you see your entire home differently.